Hello, this is Gina D'Addario, and today I would like to speak a little bit with you about one of the most important and foundational concepts in all of yoga. That is ahimsa, or non-harming. Ahimsa is the first of the yamas. The yamas are the set of 5 social disciplines that are laid out as the first limb of yoga by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras. Because of its position as the first of the yamas in the first of the limbs of yoga, that's a very clear indication to us that it really is the most important concept that should underlie all of our yoga practice. And in the 8-limbed yoga system that Patanjali outlines, this is a whole life practice. It's not just poses or exercise we do on the mat. It's not just specific breathing exercises or sitting on a cushion to meditate. It's something that really infuses our entire life and our whole way of being, our way of approaching ourselves and others and the world around us. So, with ahimsa being the very first thing that Patanjali says is part of practicing yoga, we know that this is something we really need to interweave into our whole life. Now, ahimsa, meaning non-harming, also applies to ourselves. So we need to take actions that do ourselves the most amount of good and minimize our own suffering, as well as that of those around us. For many yoga practitioners, the concept of ahimsa is what motivates them to choose a vegetarian or plant-based diet. This is in accordance with the idea that it's really hard to eat a living thing without doing it some harm. However, for some people, to eat a completely plant-based or vegetarian diet might actually harm them. So ahimsa, in that respect, would take into account the full picture of what it means to harm oneself or to harm those around you. And so, in limited instances, there might be reasons where something that is considered ahimsa, if done by one person, might not be if it's done by someone else. So all of yoga really takes circumstances into account. The most important thing to remember, though, is that this ahimsa is a concept that applies also to our physical yoga practice. Many people, myself included, enjoy a very vigorous physical asana practice on the mat, and that can be a really enjoyable experience. However, depending on the stage of life you're in, or what your own physical needs and limitations and restrictions might be, a practice like that, a physical asana practice like that, may not actually be serving you well, and you might be committing ahimsa to yourself. So, it's really important that we investigate and examine all of our actions, all aspects of our yoga practice, and all of our interactions and relationships in the world to make sure that this concept of ahimsa is really the foundation. By adhering to ahimsa, then we are genuinely practicing yoga in a holistic and comprehensive way. Ahimsa is a very particularly helpful topic these days during the COVID crisis. For many people, there is a very important need to take very, very stringent precautions. Other people, based on their particular circumstances, where they are and the severity of the crisis at this moment in your area or your own particular lifestyle choices, it may not seem as required to take such stringent precautions. However, if you are really genuinely practicing ahimsa, you want to make sure you take every single action you can to prevent doing any harm or causing any suffering to others. So when you look at different social distancing practices, such as wearing a mask, might seem a little irritating, might seem a little inconvenient. It's one more thing to have to remember, but in the grand scheme of things and the possible consequences of not being diligent, it really isn't that big of a burden for all of us to do our part to make good and careful decisions, put on that mask, keep your distance from people, stay home as much as you can, all of those things, because in that way you can do your part to live ahimsa. You can do whatever is within your control to limit your harm to others. There are so many aspects of our world in general and this crisis right now in particular that are out of our control and that we really can't do much to affect one way or the other. But what we definitely can affect is our own choices. And so when we have the concept of ahimsa and that genuine connection to the idea of non-harming, reducing and preventing suffering of all those around us, the simple request to wear a mask and to be diligent about the various recommendations that are in society today It really is very concordant with that concept. So if you're doing those things, you can have the confidence that you are genuinely living ahimsa in all aspects of your life and really, really genuinely practicing holistic yoga. So I hope that this is a nice little reminder as to why it's so important, both in the practical medical sense and also in the sort of spiritual, yogic, metaphysical sense, to adhere to the guidelines we're given and to always keep the spirit of ahimsa at the root and the foundation of our actions, because that will help us to live our best life and to foster the best life for all those around us. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope to speak with you again soon. Take good care, stay healthy and happy and well. Namaste.